Hi and welcome to this video. My name is Anya and I have a degree in textile and fashion design. And in today's video we're gonna talk about this beautiful summer skirt that we have seen absolutely everywhere. We're gonna talk about the trend and where does it come from and what does it mean. We're gonna talk about where you can buy it, and if you cannot afford it, we're gonna also talk about how to make it from scratch with no pattern needed. And the last thing that we will talk about is how to dress it up, how to use one simple skirt in many different variations so that you can use it as much as you want and it's sustainable and you don't have to buy 10 of them. Okay, so let's get right into it. So first off, we're gonna start with explaining this trend. If you know anything about fashion, you know that fashion is very famous for recycling trends, which means that something that was fashionable in the 90s, it's gonna come back and it's fashionable now in 2024. And that is something that happens in fashion quite often, and that is actually one of the reasons why we see this simple skirt being so used and so popular right now. We all know Jennifer Aniston in Friends as Rachel and her beautiful outfits, and you can see that a lot of those outfits are very simple, very minimalistic. And since 90s came after the 80s and the 80s were very extravagant and very over the top, the 90s are the contrast to that, which means they're very minimalistic, very toned down. And this skirt is exactly that. It's very minimalistic, it's very elegant, and you can use it in very different ways. And you can see that from the fashion icons of the 90s and early 2000s, you can see it in, as I said, Jennifer Aniston, you can see it in Naomi Campbell, Kate Moss, Sarah Jessica Parker. You can also see it in Gwen Petrol because she is one of the people that has the most iconic minimalistic styles from the 90s and still now recycled in the 2020s again, okay? The second reason why this trend came up now is because of the Scandi fashion or the Scandinavian fashion and the influence that it has on the design and lifestyle in general. We know the clean girl aesthetic that comes from Scandinavia. We know the Scandinavian interior design. We have gigantic influencers like Matilda with her brand. So in overall Scandinavian fashion and lifestyle are really being integrated into our everyday style and are right now really popular and trendy. And since this skirt is very simple, has very clean lines, it's made out of natural materials, usually out of cotton or linen. It has a very simple pattern. You can make it DIY. It's very comfortable and multifunctional. All of this criteria is exactly what Scandinavian design stands for. So it matches perfectly into the whole combination, and it's a really big part of why this skirt is so popular. Now the third and the fourth reason why this skirt is so popular is the post-COVID fashion and work from home movements that is happening. So let me explain both of them and how they correlate one to the other. So the first one, COVID. During COVID, everybody stayed in, and what became the number one priorities when we are at home inside is comfort. So everybody wanted to feel comfortable, which of course led to everyone wearing leggings and pajamas and sweatpants and just comfortable clothing in general. Now that comfort and functionality of COVID times kinda transferred into what people are still looking in clothing or in fashion right now. You can see that the fashion really gravitated towards loose clothing, fits that are very oversized, nothing is really too tight and uncomfortable, because people started prioritizing those two qualities, comfort and functionality. And this skirt is exactly that. It's very comfortable, it's very functional, you can wear it to many different attires and occasions, and because it has an elastic band and it has a very nice length, usually around midi size, it's very diverse and useful. So that is number one. And the second part, which of course came out of the COVID area or post-COVID area, is this new dynamic and new relationship that we have towards work. And it's this work from home situation that a lot of companies and a lot of people are a part of now. When we are at home, again, we want to feel comfortable, but when we have meeting calls and Zoom calls and conferences, we still need to be presentable and look professional. And this skirt actually achieves that perfect balance between between the two. You can be very comfortable sitting in your desk chair at your home office but still have a nice professional business call with your client without looking like you're in your pajamas. So it's a really nice balance, and I think that is the fourth reason why this skirt is so used right now absolutely everywhere. So now that we established that this skirt is very trendy and very popular and all the reasons why that is, I actually found a few examples for you so that you can purchase them if you would like, from nice brands that made a really nice job creating their own versions of this beautiful skirt. Okay, so we will go through them and I will give you some options to see if you like any of them, and I will also include all the links in my description. Okay, so let's go through them. I have them right here. So the first ones would be from Max Mara. Everybody knows this brand. It's a beautiful brand that has a lot of really beautiful pieces, and right here in front of me I have 3 beautiful skirts in beige, black, and this creamy color that all fit into this criteria that we just talked about. They have this beautiful A-line, they're midi-length, they have a nice stretchy waistband in the waistline, and I think they look really nice and really elegant and minimalistic and just absolutely beautiful. And you can find those skirts on their website from $645 to $350. The next one would be from Saks Fifth Avenue, and I'm right here on the website. I'm right now looking at this beautiful white skirt that has 3 panels, beautiful waistband at the top, really nice length, for $225, and it's called Stat, and it's a tiered midi skirt. You can see it right here. It's really nice, and I really like how they paired it with a little cardigan. It looks really, really nice. The next 2 are from Net a Porter. The first one is this beautiful white skirt from the organic cotton poplin in an A-line shape that has a very comfortable elastic band for $350, and the other one is in black from Doen that has even a little bit of this beautiful embellishments, and it's for $230. And you can also have it in white, which is also really, really beautiful, but for the variety, maybe in black looks really nice. Then of course we have Massimo Dutti, and this one is very, very simple for $149. And the last one that we can check out is from J. Crew, and it's embroidered side-tied skirt in cotton, and it's right now discounted from almost $200 to $177, and it's absolutely beautiful. It has really nice details at the top with little bows and this beautiful details on the side of the split and at the hem. So I think this one might be one of my favorites, and as I said, all of these have a very similar aesthetic, very similar style. All of them are this A shape with a waistband at the top and the midi line, usually made out of natural fabric. All of them are made out of natural, eco-friendly fabrics, and they're very sustainable and very beautifully made. So if you're curious about any of those, I will leave the links in the bio. So now that we saw this beautiful skirt, you may say, but I don't have $200 to spend on a skirt right now, and that's completely fine, and I understand where you're coming from, and that's why I prepared this next segment of the video, which is how to make your own skirt. I will lead you through the whole process, everything from the sketch to drafting the pattern. Actually, there is not a real pattern, just a bit of an explanation, a technical sketch if you want to call it like that, how to put it together, how to sew it, and I promise you it's super simple, and at the end you're gonna have a beautiful skirt that you're gonna love and will be able to wear it to any occasion, especially in this summer heat that we have right now. So don't worry, and right now we're gonna start with that. Okay, so coming from a fashion background, something that I always do first, and I learned to do first, is gather my references, my inspiration, and create my mood board. So that is exactly what I did. I went on Pinterest, which is definitely my go-to place to look for photo references, and I just collected a bunch of the ones that I liked, and then I opened Procreate on my iPad, and I started pasting all the photo references that I collected in there on my canvas. I am cropping them in a way where it's the most economical so that I can fit as many of them as possible into the same artwork. You can see that there are different colors and there are a bit of a different designs, but that is exactly what I'm looking for. I want to see a few different things so that then I can decide and choose and design exactly what I want for myself. I like to have options. And once everything was covered with photos and I was happy with how it looked, I opened another canvas and I started with the sketch. So I created a slightly A-line skirt with an elastic band at the top and a few wrinkles that elastic band will create, and the length is around midi, so that is like somewhere below the knee. And I also draw some pockets that I want to have on my skirt. I think that women's clothing never has enough pockets, so I think it's really nice to just add those. Then I added the measurement for the length of the skirt of what I thought I kinda approximately wanted. And then I also, just for myself, wrote what each part of the sketch was. So I wrote there a pocket, hem, and the hemline, the waistband, just for that extra clarity. Of course I know what I just draw, but I like to do that. Then the next step was to add the additional measurements that I will need for the pattern, which is the waist and the hips. So this is how I measured it. I make sure that the measuring tape can go up and down my thighs and that it's comfortable, and then I added those measurements to the sketch. And then because we're gonna have an elastic band in the waist, we want to add 1.5 and we're gonna multiply that with the waist number and we're gonna get the exact number of the pattern, or of what the pattern size should be, so that we're gonna get those little wrinkles, but it's still gonna fit us nicely. And after that, I made the sketches smaller and I enlarged the canvas and I started with the sketches for the pattern pieces. So first I drafted the pocket and I needed 4 of them, 2 for the front and 2 for the back. So left and right. There you go. I can tell you right now that creating a pattern for the pocket is gonna be the only actual pattern piece that we're gonna make out of the paper. Everything else we're gonna just draw directly on the fabric. And then I moved to the actual pattern for the skirt, and what I did was a pretty big rectangular shape that went a bit wider on each side, which is gonna give us a bit of that A shape. And something that I forgot but then was able to rescue later because I had enough space was we need 2 pieces of fabric so that we can insert the pockets. But here, as I am making the sketch, you can see that is just 1 piece, so that I will fix later. And then here at the top, I just added the measurements for the elastic band. I needed 1 centimeter and then 2.5 and 2.5 for the elastic, and another 1 centimeter that we're gonna fold. I'm gonna show you that later on in the video, but it's important to calculate that before we transfer this sketch on the fabric. And then I also put in the measurements on the skirt, like the length and the width and all of that good stuff. And here it is. I think I'm done and we can move to the next stage. Here is my beautiful black linen material. It's organic and I got it in the fabric store on sale, so I was really happy with my find. The next thing that we will need is a measuring tape, the charcoal for fabric, the scissors for the fabric and textile. Don't use the normal scissors. We will need some pins, some metal pins, the geo triangle or just a ruler. And this is the copying paper with a roller that is gonna help us transfer the lines of the pattern to the other side when we are cutting any piece of pattern on 2 layers. We will need the black string for the sewing machine, and that is it. Now, as I said before, the only actual pattern that we will draft will be the pocket, so let's do that first. Here's just a normal piece of paper. This is Havana paper that I use for my pattern making, and what I did was I just outlined my hand so that it's easier for me to know what the size of the pocket has to be. And then you saw before I did the vertical line, and then out of that vertical line I made a 90-degree line because it's gonna be easier for me to insert it then into an actual skirt. Like, that is always a rule that I stick to. And then I just kind of circle around my hand to create that pocket shape, and I made sure I had enough space and that my hand is gonna be able to fit in, and maybe my phone and some keys, and I made sure that the hole for the pocket was also big enough. And once I was happy with the lines, I took the scissors for the paper and I cut out the actual pattern piece. I made sure that I was being as precise as possible because of course it's important to be precise and to stick to the lines that we just drafted. And here's our pocket piece. We can see that my hand fits in perfectly, but now I just made 3 little points that are gonna help me make sure that I'm being precise when I'm putting the front and the back of the pattern together in the next stages. Now the final test, this is how the pocket is gonna look like. Approved. Now let's move to the actual fabric. I unfolded the fabric on my table. This is the biggest table that I have and it's still not big enough because it's just a dining table, and I cannot wait for one day to have an actual table for tailoring and sewing, but until then this will have to work. Now I had to check what was the face side of the fabric and what was the back side of the fabric so that I can draw with the charcoal on the back side and the lines are not gonna be visible on the front. And I started by measuring. I am first measuring the upper side, so the part that is gonna be around my waist, and then I also measured the length on several places so that I knew approximately where the skirt will end, and then I went right into it with the charcoal. First I measured the 7 centimeters away from the upper edge, which is gonna be where the skirt will start, and those 7 centimeters are for the elastic band, and then I measured the length and I again marked it with a charcoal, and then I marked 5 extra centimeters under the length for the hem. I tried to make as many marks as possible, and then I connected them with a ruler so that I have a straight line that is gonna guide me. I did the same also on the upper side, and then I also drafted the sides that were, as you remember from the sketch, a bit on the outside to give that A line. So here it is. After I was done with the drafting, and I was happy that I transferred the sketch of the pattern exactly the same as I did it before on my iPad, I took the scissors for the fabric and I cut out the hemline. Of course, I'm trying to be careful that I cut exactly on the line because remember, precision in sewing is key. The next line that I cut was the side line with the seam allowance. Here the seam allowance were 1.5 centimeters, and again on the other side 1.5 centimeters of that extra seam allowance, and at the top I didn't have to cut because I already had that 7 centimeters of extras, so I saved myself 1 cut. And this is the remaining of the fabrics that I had, and we're gonna use that right now for the pockets. So what I did was I folded the fabric so that I will be cutting 2 layers out at the same time, which saves time and of course assures more accuracy. So I placed here the paper pattern piece for the pocket. I pinned it down carefully and so that it's not moving, and then I grabbed the charcoal and I went around it, making sure that the line is running smoothly. Then I also grabbed the measuring tape and I added the seam allowance, which was another 1.5 centimeters, and then I cut it out with my fabric scissors. There we go. Now I grabbed the copying paper with the roller. This is the yellow one that I have right here, and I went over it, still being attached together, both layers, and I transferred the pattern on the other side. I unpinned both sides so that I can reuse the pattern piece for the second pair. I repeated the whole process exactly the same. I think that this copying paper is one of my favorite sewing tools or sewing supplies because I use it all the time and it saves me so much time. Now here is the base of the skirt, and here is when I actually realized that I need two sides, the front and the back, so that I can insert the patterns for the pockets on the sides. So I had to cut it in half, and luckily I had enough space to do that. And now it was time to actually overlock all the pattern pieces. So I grabbed 3 black strings for this overlocking because I just need to protect them, and I went all around them so that the fabric and the pattern piece stays in one place. I'm just making sure that I am doing the overlocking precisely on the edge so that I'm not making the pocket any smaller than it actually has to be. And I repeated the same process on all 4 pockets. Now, overlocking is usually something that I don't do first, but the process making of this skirt is a bit different, so I chose to do that first. And now that all 4 pieces of the pocket were overlocked, I was able to attach them to the skirt. I measured the position on the skirt and I marked it with a charcoal on both sides, and I pinned them together. You can see here the position of how I am pinning them. The face of the pocket and the face of the skirt are placed together. Here I actually double checked to make sure that I am placing them together. I always prefer to do that whenever I'm sewing anything that will be turned around, because I made so many mistakes in the past that I learned my lesson to double check with these things. This is the other side. It's exactly the same process, and I am pinning this down so that I will sew it now with a sewing machine, and then I will overlock all sides of the skirt. So here it is. I used a standard straight normal size length stitch, and I just attached the pocket on all 4 sides of the skirt. And now that the pockets are attached, we can move to the next stage, that is overlocking all 4 sides of the skirt. So the side with a pocket, the hem, the other side with a pocket, and the top. And I did that very carefully on the front side of the skirt and on the back side of the skirt. And again, I am making sure that I am overlocking on the edge and not cutting into the skirt unnecessarily. This is such a peaceful part of the process. I usually just put some music and enjoy it because I don't have to think. And now that both sides are overlocked, I can finally put one on top of the other and pin them together so that they are ready to be sewn together. Make sure that when we are pinning together the pockets, we align those points that we made. Now you see how important they are. And we repeat, of course, the same process on both sides. There we go. We are back to the sewing machine, and we will make these 2 very long stitches just on the side together with the pocket. Everything is gonna be 1 stitch. Here, when I come to the pocket, what I do is I leave the needle in and I rotate the fabric so that I have that 90-degree angle, and I sew around the pocket. And then when I finish with the pocket, I again leave the needle in. I put the petal up, I rotate the fabric again for 90 degrees, and I just continue all the way to the top. And also don't forget to make the double stitch at the end to protect that seam. And there comes the ironing. Ironing is such an important part, and I try to really not skip it, and I feel like the pieces of clothing stand more beautifully and are just worn nicer when they are ironed properly during the whole process. Then I also turned the skirt around and I ironed the pockets on the face side so that the fold that I made for the pocket, or where the hole for the pocket is ironed nicely and flat. And after that, I turned the skirt back around and I ironed the hem, and I decided to just make a little 1 centimeter edge for the hem and not the 5 that I originally planned, because I liked the length like that a bit more, and I thought that otherwise it would be a bit too shorter for what I had in mind. But of course you can do it like you want it on your measurements and just adjust it to your liking. And that is one of the parts that I really like about this skirt, and that is that it's so customizable and you can do it exactly as you want. You can add the pockets, you can not add the pockets, you can have it very long, you can have it very short, like whatever you want. Here on the hem, while I was ironing it, I was also pinning it in so that when it comes to sewing it, it's just gonna be a bit easier and it's not gonna be unfolding. And then it was the time to make that a bit of a complex ironing part on the upper side for the elastic. So I ironed it first 1 centimeter in, and I went like that all around, and then I folded another 2 centimeters and a half and ironed it again all around. I was constantly measuring it and making sure that the elastic is gonna fit in, because that was of course the whole point of creating this little tunnel. We can call it like that, right? And that is it. Now that we finished with the ironing phase, we can move back to the sewing machine and we're gonna sew the tunnel that we just ironed together for the elastic. Here I changed the stitch a little bit and I made it so that the needle actually moved from the middle to one side, so that I made the stitch really on the edge of the tunnel. It was just my personal choice, and also the stitch was a bit shorter, and that was also just a personal preference. So I went all around it and I made sure that I was sewing as straight as possible, and then when I came all around I actually left around 4 centimeters of a hole so that I'm gonna be able to put the elastic in. But we're gonna come back to that and sew the whole thing once the elastic is inserted, so don't worry about that. And after the tunnel for the elastic was done, I also moved to the hem and just made a beautiful, nice stitch that is gonna protect the hem fold. And now that I made both of the seams that I prepared with the ironing, I can grab my elastics, and you can see there that I already make the marks of how much of the elastics I will use, and I attached a little metal pin to it, and I started navigating it through that little tunnel. So what I'm doing is I am grabbing the pin and I am pulling the elastic in through the tunnel and trying to equally spread the fabric. You will see very fast how the fabric starts making these little wrinkles, because of course the elastic is pulling the whole piece of clothing together. In this stage we are just trying to be patient and doing it slowly so that we don't lose the elastic or that it doesn't turn while it's in a tunnel, and we take our time. And then when I came around it, I pulled it out and I looked for those 2 marks that I did before, and I attached them together. Then I tried it on again. I'm sorry I didn't record that. And I actually made the elastic a bit smaller so that it's a bit tighter on me. And I marked that, and then I decided to make 2 stitches on the elastic, one so that it holds and the second one as a protection, so that I make sure that it's not gonna be undone at just any given moment, and so that I feel secured. And after that I just cut that extra piece of the elastic away. I hid the elastic in the tunnel and I sewed together those last 4 centimeters that were missing from before. And there we go, that is it. Okay, so this is the skirt that I made. I absolutely love it. It looks so nice and I cannot wait to wear it throughout the summer and maybe even the fall. I cannot wait to style it and wear it to different occasions with different accessories, and I am just so happy with how it turned out, and it was so easy to make. I am sure that anyone can do it. And now let's move to the last part of the video, so how to style it and how to wear this skirt. And the beauty of this skirt is that it's very simple, and depending on what you put as your top and what type of shoes or accessories you wear with the skirt can be transformed into many different variations and be used in many different looks. So that is another thing that definitely makes you love this skirt. The versatility of it is just absolutely amazing, so I really love it. Now let's get right into it and let's check out some ways to wear this skirt. The first one, in my opinion, would be the casual, the everyday look that you can wear in the afternoon to go grocery shopping or to meet with your friends for a coffee. So what you can do is you can put a nice colorful top on with some nice colorful ballerina flats or sneakers, maybe pair it with a fun bag, and there you go. The second look would be a bit more official, a bit more elegant, maybe something that is for a business meeting, and in that case I would maybe pair it with a heel as a choice of footwear, and then maybe a nice blazer or a nice waistcoat in either monochromatic color or in the complementary color, and of course an elegant bag, maybe some sunglasses. That would be absolutely beautiful. Now we can also tone it down, and with possibility number 3, you can just put on a graphic t-shirt and some sneakers, maybe some sambas with some higher socks and a tote bag, and you can make it very comfy, very low-key, nothing fancy, and I think it looks really nice also. And the fourth option would be to also wear it during a bit of a colder month, so in late spring or in spring, and in the fall when we can pair it up with a nice jumper or cardigan or just something warmer on the top, and then of course maybe some boots or some nice sneakers again for the footwear. And that means that you can wear this skirt not just through summer but also through those 2 seasons. But because it's made out of linen, and if you live in the area where we have 4 seasons that are very different from each other and winter it gets cold, then I would suggest you to not wear linen in the winter. But if you're somewhere that is a bit warmer even during winter, then of course you can go ahead and wear it throughout the year, which is really sustainable and really smart, and it's very low consumption, and you're just doing good for the environment and for your wallet and for absolutely everybody. We have to remember that there is no shame in wearing something multiple times. I know that we see influencers online all the time appearing in different outfits every time they publish something, but that is really not what we should aspire to do. I think that we should aspire to just wear clothing that is very versatile and we can pair it out in different ways, because I think personally that that is what really brings that charm and the creativity when you have a few pieces that you really know how to style well and in different ways. Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned a lot. I know that it was pretty long and we covered a lot of different themes, and hopefully you got a lot of different information and you had fun. Let me know if you make the skirt and how it goes, and I hope you enjoyed that process. If you have any questions at all, you can let me know and I will try to answer and help to absolutely everyone. And yeah, that is it. You can also find me on social media as Gratu Studio, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!